Hello, and welcome back to Cars Jubilee. Been gone for a while, but it's good to be back, and I've got a bunch of updates. Now, if you're new here, we own a 2022 Ioniq 5 all-wheel drive limited, as well as this Genesis GV60 Performance. I've been documenting my ownership experience with both of these EVs, the good and the bad. And so today I'm going to review everything that's happened since our last update for these two EVs, and I hope you stick around because there's a lot of important information, as well as some bonus G80 Electrified content at the very end. Spoiler alert, there's phantom braking. So let's get to it, starting with where I've been. Well, on March 9th, our family of 5 officially became a family of 6. My wife unexpectedly gave birth to a baby boy, and I say unexpectedly because he was born at 28 weeks, which was 3 months too early. And currently he's expected to spend 3 months living in the hospital NICU, and so that's kind of why I've been busy. We're constantly going back and forth between the hospital and home. We are still working. We have our 3-year-old son still at home. So we're just trying to juggle all these things. With premature babies, the more contact, the more skin to skin, the more time that they have with their parents is supposed to help their development. And so that's what we've been trying to do. And yeah, it's been tiring, but at the end of the day, we are still very blessed that he's alive, that he's doing well. We also are very blessed to have just an amazing family, amazing church family supporting us. So yeah, we are very thankful, but at the same time, we still ask for prayers for our family, for our baby Zeke, that we'll be able to bring him home soon. All right, now on to the cars, starting with our Ioniq 5. Now, we've been dealing with Hyundai for a whole bunch of different issues for the past 6 months or so. We've owned the car already for over a year. But in any case, most recently we sent our Ioniq 5 back to the dealership. That was on February 14th, and it ended up staying there for 2 months. Now that's mostly having to do with Hyundai's engineering, because they're the ones actually looking at my car and deciding what to do, and the dealership there is just following their instructions. But in any case, it sat there for 2 months, and it was there for so long that our car's state inspection sticker actually expired. So we couldn't drive it, we couldn't really street park it because we ran the risk of getting pulled over and then getting ticketed, or just parking on the street and getting ticketed. So for one, I had to block out about 2 hours to go pick up the car and come back because it's 2 hours round trip. And then I had to get it inspected as quickly as possible or risk getting ticketed. But anyways, what did Hyundai do, or what did Hyundai Engineering do with my car for 2 months? Let's see. Well, number one was the seat track. Now, you may remember from a previous video, I said that this driver's seat actually slides forward and backwards when I'm driving. Well, previously when it was there, the service techs had said that they could not replicate that it's the exact same as all the other cars out there. Well, this time, case got escalated. Genesis Engineering decided, okay, I guess we do see the issue, and they ended up actually replacing the seat track assembly. At least that's what they did according to the dealer write-up, which my copy says something different. But again, this is the one they had me sign at the dealership, and then this is the one that they actually gave me. The two don't match, but on the dealer side of it, I can tell that they bought a piece, they bought some parts, and then they replaced it. So if you have this sliding issue, even though there's a TSP in Canada and not in the US, if you push or make enough noise, there's clearly a fix for it, because my seat doesn't move anymore. The next issue was actually the trunk rattle, which was really bad by the time it finally went back in February. And if you remember from previous videos, they created this trunk rattle. I never had a trunk rattle until I sent my car in so that they could take a look at it and try to fix the tailgate alignment. They ended up not being able to fix the alignment, and then they made it rattle. Then we sent it back in again, and they made it rattle even worse. Well, I can finally report that my trunk, the liftgate, or whatever's back there, does not rattle anymore. So if you do have rattle issues, take a look at the breakdown here. It says what they did. It's definitely fixed. It's definitely fixable, because ours is dead quiet again. Then what about the actual liftgate or tailgate alignment issue? This one actually gets pretty interesting because Hyundai Engineering this time issued a statement saying, well, they told the dealer not to make any more attempts to fix the liftgate alignment issue. And the reason for that is that they don't want to recreate a trunk rattle. And I mean, in some ways it's a good thing because now they're finally acknowledging that there is an adjustment that needs to be made or that there is something that needs to be fixed. But the flip side is they're saying, but we're not going to fix it. So I'm not sure which is better or which is worse. But in any case, Hyundai Engineering has told the dealer and essentially told me that they will not be fixing my liftgate. Now moving on, remember we had phantom Bluelink issues. Well, once again, we're dealing with Hyundai Engineering and they issued this statement. They're basically saying that my Electrify America app is causing battery drain and that I should remove my credentials. Well, credentials, I think they mean that somehow the Electrify America app has access to my Hyundai app login or my Bluelink app login, which it doesn't. But in any case, I went through the Electrify America app to see if there's any way to clear the permissions or change the credentials, and there isn't. So really, essentially what they're telling me is that if I don't want battery drain issues, that I should just delete my Electrify America app, which doesn't really make sense because you need the app if you want to charge your car. Yes, you can charge at home, but for me, I do most of my charging at Electrify America, not just for road tripping. But let's rewind because that wasn't even my primary concern. My primary concern was the fact that Bluelink was somehow able to send rogue commands to the car without my acknowledgement, without my permission. I mean, do you want your car sending remote climate start or unlocking itself in the middle of the city when you're not there? I don't. They essentially it kind of ignored that part of my request and just said, well, if you have battery drain issues, just kind of stop using Electrify America app. And again, I need that to charge. So that kind of went nowhere. All right, I'm just gonna jump right into it. We recently had another phantom braking incident moving forward, and yeah, this one was scary. All right, so here's what happened. The other day, I was in this car with my son, and we're sitting waiting to make a left turn. Now, in this specific instance, it's kind of a weird setup where I can only see so far because oncoming traffic is a curved road. And so they're also flying right through. They're really good. They're going really fast. My only choice really is to drive pretty aggressively and take this turn pretty quickly. And so as the blue car passes me, I follow it pretty closely. Again, in Philadelphia, this is just a normal turn. This is what people do. This is how people drive. I've done it hundreds of times in this car, and I've done it hundreds of times in my Ioniq 5. And 99% of the time, I don't have any issues. But just randomly, unpredictably, this GV60 will decide, nope, gonna stop you right in the middle of the intersection. And that's what happened. This car tried to stop me in the middle of the intersection. For some reason though, this time it didn't bring me to complete stop. This time it slowed me down very significantly, but just kind of let me creep through the intersection. And we made it just in time. I firmly believe that if this car had stopped like the two previous times, my son would have gotten hit by the white car that was coming around the bend. They just wouldn't have expected this car to come to a complete stop, and they wouldn't have been able to brake in time because, like I said, cars fly through that turn. They're going probably 40, 50 miles an hour. So we got really lucky, but here's the clip. It's kind of hard to see in real time because it happens so fast, but you'll hear the sensors go off and you'll see my head and my body kind of get thrown forward a bit when the car starts braking aggressively. The weird thing is that by the time you hear the sensors go off and the car starts braking, there's no car in sight. That blue car, it's gone. It already passed me. The GV60 let me pull into the intersection after there was no one left, and then it slammed on the brakes and tried to bring me to a full stop. In real time, it's only 2 to 3 seconds. But in that moment, for me, it felt like an eternity. I was praying to God, please get me through this intersection. The other half of me was screaming on the inside to this car, like, move, don't you dare stop. Because I honestly believe my son would have gotten hit if this car had stopped completely like it did 2 other times. So I'd say that an accident was narrowly avoided. An accident that would have been caused by Genesis's so-called safety system trying to keep us safe. To date, Genesis has refused to do anything about this. I've told them I feel unsafe driving this car. It puts me and my family in danger repeatedly. It's to the point where I'm literally nervous every time I make a left turn. I don't even let my wife drive this car anymore because I'm afraid what would happen. And honestly, I probably shouldn't even put my son in this car anymore because of what almost happened. Genesis has repeatedly told me there's nothing wrong with my car, that it's operating as intended. To which I've said to them, would you put your family in this car knowing that it has unpredictably stopped in the middle of the intersection multiple times? There you have it. I finally have video proof. I was hoping that it would never happen again and that I wouldn't have any proof, but it did happen. Similar fashion, not exactly the same, but enough to the point where I've had it. Like, this car is unsafe and I need Genesis to do something about it. They have not to date, but hey, Genesis, the ball is in your court. Here's video proof of what's going on. I think there's something wrong. Your choice, guys. And that's not it, because this Genesis GV60 actually went into service for a second visit on February 15th. Now, if you remember earlier, I mentioned my Ioniq 5 went in for service on February 14th. So these cars went in one after the other, and essentially we were without our cars, which we paid for quite a while together at the same time. This GV60 ended up going in February 15th, coming back out, I think, March 8th. So around 3 weeks. And during that time, Genesis Engineering was contacting me via the Genesis case manager, and they just refused to acknowledge that there were any issues with this car. They refused to acknowledge any issues with the Phantom reverse braking or forward braking, and they refused to acknowledge any issues with the EV economy history, which I've gone in depth about. It's a glitch that's been happening since I bought the car in July of 2022. Since that time, I've talked to everyone that I can within Genesis, and no one seems to understand the basic concept of miles per kilowatt. And without that understanding, you can't understand anything on these screens. And that's been the case. No one understands it, and so they push it to the next person. And finally, Genesis Engineering recently said, refer back to your manual, which to me was a cop-out answer. And so I just kept on emailing back and forth, showing more videos, showing more photos, just stuff that I've been documenting for the past 8 months. I guess I finally won, but not really. So here's the official write-up. You'll notice that it's on Genesis of Cherry Hill's letterhead, but again, they're just the middleman. They're relaying what engineering is telling them to me. So this is from Genesis Engineering. They're saying that there will most likely be an over-the-air update to correct the EV history and driver's display discrepancy. No current ETA at this time. Now, to me, that doesn't sound very reassuring that it's going to get done. Is that really a win? I guess, but was it worth all the headache, the hundreds of hours sunk into communication, into vlogging, into just trying to teach them what in the world is going on? I mean, it wasn't worth it. Absolutely not. But I hope they actually fix it for all 1,500 of us GV60s here in the US currently. Now, as I mentioned before, our car went in for a bunch of stuff. You can look at this list. Supposedly, they replaced our seals out here. And then when I went to check, when I got the car back, they hadn't replaced it. So I don't know what seals are replaced, but they didn't replace the right ones. Also, recently we noticed, well, not recently, it's been there for 4 or 5 months. I just haven't gotten to it because I've been preoccupied with the safety issue of this car. But when I open the trunk, there's these yellow spots where the liftgate bumpers rest. So yeah, there's a lot going on with this GV60, and it's a shame because I absolutely love this car. It's my favorite car, hands down, that I've ever owned, but I just don't trust it. All right, now we get to the bonus content, which is the G80 Electrified, which, as you'll recall, when my GV60 went into service for those 3 weeks, the dealership was able to get me the G80 Electrified, which I was super excited about. I had really wanted to try it, and I wasn't disappointed. It was beautiful. It was just such a super cushy and soft ride, super quiet inside, super luxurious. I loved it, like to the point where I thought, man, maybe I should swap these cars out. And like I said, I live in the city where a full-size sedan makes absolutely no sense. I have to street park, parallel park everywhere I go, and that thing is ginormous. But even then, I loved it until it started phantom braking. Let me explain. So with the G80, it's doing it in two different ways: phantom braking while using auto regen, and phantom braking while using HDA. Neither of those things happen with my Ioniq 5 or my GV60, and my GV60 at this point is notorious for phantom braking. So the G80 is somehow doing its complete own thing with phantom braking. Now with auto regen, I don't want to get too in depth with it because I don't believe that many people use auto regen, so you'll be watching these clips in the background playing and you may just not understand what's going on. And I kind of feel like Genesis Engineering is probably in the same boat. Based on the discussions I've had with them through customer care, I'm not convinced that any of these guys actually drive a Hyundai, Kia, or Genesis EV, or drive an EV period. I kind of think that they don't. But in any case, auto regen can be a little confusing, but as someone who uses it daily in the Ioniq 5 and the GV60, I know how it's supposed to work, and it's not working right with this G80. In this G80, I have auto regen set to the lowest level of regen, and what it's supposed to do is slow itself down and ramp up the regen when it senses something in front. In these clips, there's nothing in front. It just randomly decides to ramp up the regen and bring me to an almost complete stop, and then it holds me there for a couple of seconds. But that's that. Let's talk more about the HDA one, because that's where I see this becoming more of an issue, because I think a lot of people will use or do use HDA. With HDA, as you can see, I'm on the highway. It's in medium levels of traffic, probably going anywhere from 30 to 40 miles an hour, moderate traffic conditions. And in these conditions, it's just constantly emergency braking, over and over and over, day after day. You'll see the car ahead is maintaining speed, and HDA is doing what it's supposed to do initially, maintaining speed and distance, until all of a sudden decides, oh no, there is something in front that's going to cause a frontal collision, and it starts braking the car. Now, you'll see that I actually override it. I keep moving, I just press the accelerator pedal, and I can keep going. But it just does it over and over and over again. And you'll see at one point, I actually decide, I'm just gonna call Genesis customer care and let them know, hey, this car is phantom braking itself. I think you guys should know that. I have videos if you guys want it.
Good morning, Genesis Motor America. This is...
And the customer care agent had said, yes, send me whatever you have and I'll forward it to the proper channels and forward it to our Genesis engineering team. And so I did. It's an unlisted YouTube video, meaning they're the only ones with the link. And so I know if they watch it, it'll show up as a view. And currently, after over a month, well over a month, it's currently got 0 views. So at this point, I don't know what else to do, but I feel like I've done everything I can do. I don't own a G80 Electrified, but I feel like people should know, hey, there's a very good chance yours will start phantom braking using HDA. So here's the proof. Genesis, I've tried to notify you guys as best as I can. It doesn't seem like you guys are doing anything about it. You haven't even looked at the video, but it is what it is. And so, finally, that's it. My longest video ever which contained updates for the past 2 to 3 months for my Ioniq 5, my GV60, as well as the G80 Electrified loaner. I hope you guys find something useful about my experiences, good and bad. Hopefully now you have a better idea of what it's going to look like if you have issues. Now, personally, I am hoping that Hyundai or Genesis step up and do something to help us with our EVs, because it's been a long journey with both cars and we're getting pretty tired. I just don't have that much time to devote to constantly troubleshooting or just complaining or doing whatever it is that I'm doing. Anyways, I do plan on continuing to provide updates for my GV60 and my Ioniq 5, and so if you want more, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button to get the notifications. Also, let me know in the comment section below, have you had similar issues? And even if you haven't, would you continue driving this GV60 if it was phantom braking on you? Again, let me know in the comment section below. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one.